anybody can do this. If you learn how to run properly, you can run forever and never get hurt. I was very skeptical, but he said, you go back and practice this, and you can come back to my race in 9 months. So I was the first guy hit to win over. I had to try and reverse myself from a guy who was the lowest common denominator. I was a guy that the top medical professionals will look in the face and say, if you ever run again, you should be institutionalized. I was the first guy to be won over. The second guy to win over, the second runner to be won over was basically anybody else seeing the outside world, and who else can come down into the center of drug cartel heading in order to run a race against a bunch of guys who won't even talk to you and they would show at all. So I went to Chautauqua for Runner's World, and I started to do two things. One was I started to get these communications. I started to get these messages from bizarre people. I heard from a guy called Barefoot Ted, who lives out in Burbank, and he likes to train by running barefoot through the streets of Burbank, holding his wife and daughter in a rickshaw. He likes to drink, I shouldn't say he likes to drink, but for nutrition, he will drink midstream morning urine. Not any other urine, or morning midstream urine, which he felt would replace his necessary electrolytes to make you stronger and healthier. Which when he told me the story, I thought, I'm not even sure how much better you feel, but I think I'd rather feel worse than just not drinking. I heard from a guy named Luis Escobar, whose father was a Mexican migrant worker who became a California highway patrolman. He wanted to come down with his dad. I talked to these people, Jen and Billy, Billy Bonehead and Jen E. Shelton, who were a couple of surfers in Virginia, who, when they weren't surfing and doing community service for various arrests, were out there winning ultramarathons, 50 to 100 miles. Jen Shelton's first race was not a 5K, it was a 50-mile race, and she broke the age group record. Her second race was a 100-mile race that she ran while eating a cheese pizza and Mountain Dew at the 50-mile mark, and broke the course record by 3 hours. So they wanted to come along as well. And then the phone call, which I had to sort of tap the phone, make sure I was actually hearing it properly, was from a guy named Scott Jurek. I don't know if you guys are into the ultra world yet. When you get into the ultra running world, you hear the name Scott Jurek. When you say that name, like the building starts to shake. Scott Jurek is an absolute monster of an ultra runner. He has won the Western States 100, which is the premier 100-mile running event. He's won this thing 7 times in a row, which is unfathomable because, we did this trail run today, and during that 1-hour run, you could have stubbed a toe, twisted an ankle, tripped. It's hard to run a rocky terrain for an hour. Imagine starting at 4 o'clock in the morning in the dark, running 100 miles through the mountains, and not only finishing that successfully every year for 7 years, but beating every single guy who's got you in the crosshairs every single year for 7 years. So Scott George said he wants to come as well. This all of a sudden went from being this highly improbable, probably never going to happen race to being a little bit intriguing. Now suddenly we got 7 really highly seasoned, competitive, ambitious ultra runners who say that they're in. The last guy that had to turn things around was going to be me. What I started to do was experiment with this idea of, is there actually a right and a wrong way to run? I've always been told there is. You run the way you run. That wherever you do wrong, you just buy the right shoes, and the shoes will fix things up. The running injury rate should have told us a long time ago that doesn't work, because we have the same number of injuries now as we've always had. The percentage of people who are hurt is somewhere north of 50% every single year. Somewhere between 60 and 80% of all runners are injured every single year, and they have been for 30 years. And obviously, the shoes aren't helping. So I started to experiment with this other idea of whether there's a right and a wrong way to run. And I'm very tempted to get you all right now to do it, but it would kind of cramp. But what the most eye-opening lesson I learned was the simplest lesson of all. When I was asking this guy named Danny Dreyer, who has a system called She Run, I said, what's the one tip you can tell somebody? He said, just run in place. You can't run wrong when you're running in place. I sort of heard this and didn't pay any attention. Then later on, I heard about a guy named Walter George. This is back in 1874. Now, Walter George was a pharmacist's apprentice at age 16. And at age 16, he was working from 7 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night every single day. Couldn't go outside. But his passion was running. And on Sundays, he liked to go out and try and compete in races. The problem was, for 6 days of the week, he didn't have a chance to train. So what Walter George did was, He invented a workout called the 100 up. And every day, for 30 minutes during his lunch break, he did the 100 up as practice. And the 100 up essentially is just running in place. All he did was put his foot like this, and like this. That's all he did. 30 minutes a day. At the end of 1 year doing the 100 up, he went out to a mile race and broke the world record for the mile. After 5 years doing the 100 up, he had broken the world record in every distance from 800 meters to 10 miles. You can't find anybody today that even competes at every distance from 800 meters and 10 miles. This guy can beat anybody in the planet, in history, in every one of these distances. And all he did every day was hop up and down in place for 30 minutes in the back of the pharmacy. So I was kind of intrigued by that. And then I heard about another runner named Emil Zatopek. You guys know who Emil Zatopek is yet? You have to, guys? How many of you guys know who Emil Zatopek is? Okay, you guys are in for a treat then. Back in the 1940s, Emil Zatopek was a Czechoslovakian soldier. He got sticking him on night guard duty in the snow, and to keep himself warm, what did he do? He was running in place in the snow. 1952, Emil Zatopek shows up at the Helsinki Olympics. He's the only person who's ever won all 3 distance events, all 3 gold medals, 5,000 meters, 10,000 meters, and the marathon in the same Olympics. The marathon he won the gold medal in was the first marathon he ever run in his life. And he wins the gold medal. So what's the connection here between the Table Mata, a busted down guy the size of Shrek, Emil Zatopek, and Walter George? I think it all comes down to a simple thing that people won't talk about that much anymore, which is pure, easy running form. The fact is that you can move your body lightly and effortlessly. That we're not born broken, this mentality that there's something wrong with us and you always got to buy something or see somebody or have some kind of special machine that's going to fix you. I think it's the exact opposite. Get back to the simple fundamental basics. Learn how your body actually wants to behave. Take the shoes off, let your feet spread a little bit, and see what can happen. What happened in my case was I started training in September, and then by the following February, I'd gone from not running at all up to doing 4 or 5 hour runs, and then went down to the Copper Canyons for this 50-mile race against the Table Mata. And I did so well, I actually almost won. I was within 6 hours of winning that race. I just picked it up a little bit toward the end. I was actually so slow that the Table Mata, literally, the Table Mata could have run a second lap of the 50-mile course and still have beaten me. But I was pretty happy about that too, because again, 9 months earlier, I would have considered this to be impossible. And I found it to be really possible and fun, but to me the most rewarding thing of all was when I came across the finish line, everybody was there. I mean, the way the Table Mata run is, and this is something that is indicative of this guy Scott Jurek as well, is, you know, the fastest runner is only as fast as the slowest runner. With the Table Mata run, always as a team, always as a group, you can't win unless the entire village comes across the line with you at the same time. And so they're always pulling for that line. It's basically the 5th guy mentality. They're always pulling for that 5th person. The race isn't over until your last race gets across the line. So even though I came in, think about this, 6 hours later, they could have gone home, had a nap, a shower, dinner, changed, raised a kid, and still come back. and as I'm struggling across the line. But when I came across that line, all the American ultra runners in the Table Mata were there waiting for me for this big celebration. So where it's helping today is something I think is way beyond running. It's this mentality that, you know, we sort of go through life thinking that we're sort of kind of fragile and sort of semi-broken, and that doctors and researchers and professors know more than us and we need to study and check out studies and we have to watch what we eat. It's the exact opposite. I think we're really robust and strong and powerful and fine. And we listen to the people that profit by our fragility. We're always going to believe that there's something wrong with us and we're broken. I think it's time to just shut all that stuff off, to actually get out there and realize that essentially we're animals. Like every other animal, like wolves and rhinos and dolphins, we are strong, vigorous animals that benefit by movement. And instead of waiting, to be sure we're safe first, get out there and move first and learn how to move. And to me, the benefits are incalculable.